Welcome to another episode of First Light, an original science fiction short story compilation written and narrated by Scott McGowan. The following story contains depictions of graphic violence and gore, including animal attacks, combat violence, and disturbing imagery. These episodes should not be redistributed without express permission. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Chapter 3. Charmer. M's outfit was striking in its complexity. A large round hat added a full 12 inches of height to his silhouette, and its deep red velvet sheen and gold adornments conjured images of an ancient Shah's crown. Lengths of chain seemed to defy gravity as they formed short, unmoving waves on the hat's surface. He was wearing goggles, too large, Rubyn thought, to be standard-issue safety goggles, that were highly reflective, every stray beam of light serving to mask and block eye contact. His lithe frame was contrasted sharply by his wide-shouldered jacket, a piece that matched his headgear impeccably down to the lengths of gold chain, buttoned up to just below his sternum to give a glimpse of the midnight blue silk layer underneath. His shoes were the most lavish of all, almost comical in their size, giving his feet the appearance of being a magnitude larger than they ought to be, and pointed upwards at the ends. His voice was much richer when unaffected by the pod network. It suited his meticulous garb. He was almost enchanting in his speech, oozing the level of confidence that entire countries went to war for. "I sincerely thank you for coming all this way to meet with me. I understand it was an unusual request, but I assure you that you are safe." He gestured widely at the empty streets. "We are completely alone." Rubyn was too impressed by the outfit to pay much attention to what he was saying, but he nodded as if to agree. He stared in awe at the hat, marveling at the craftsmanship that was clearly required, and every time M's head moved and the chains did not, his fascination grew. Victoria was straight to the point, as always.
"Why did you bring us here?"
The doctor flashed a toothy grin, and Victoria took notice of his prominent canines. He reminded them of the security risk inherent in his communications with them and pointed out what she had noticed previously. There were no cameras here. "This district was the original sciences complex," he explained, "and we've had an agreement since our formation that there would be no guard presence here, surveillance or otherwise. Since the completion of the Argent Tower, these buildings have sat unused."
"Perfect place for a secret meeting."
Victoria stated.
"Or a murder."
The words snapped Rubyn out of his trance. He accidentally shifted his weight onto his bad leg, causing a sharp bolt of pain to run up his left side. He gasped and instinctively grabbed Victoria's shoulder to steady himself, wincing. She barely flinched. M's smile disappeared. "I would do no such thing!" With slow, clear movements of his hands, he triggered the unlocking mechanism on his pod, the new steel construct sliding off his forearm. He carefully placed it on the ground in front of him, between the three of them, and then stuck a finger in each of the arms of his jacket and shook it. "Nothing up my sleeve, see?"
"Good."
Rubyn felt Victoria's shoulders relax. He clued into the physical contact between them and adjusted himself so he could let go. She still didn't seem to care.
"What's the job?"
"Something very important of mine has been stolen from me," the man continued, placing both hands behind his back. "The thieves have demanded a ransom. I have no intention of paying them for their work."
"So you want us to kill them?"
"Not at all!" M was almost indignant at the idea. "This is a recovery mission, nothing more." Something wasn't right. The man he had spoken to on the call had left no question answered. This was too straightforward for that level of obscurity.
"Sir, if I may,"
he began, and M's attention turned to him.
"I remember you said you needed Victoria's skill set. Is that accurate?"
"Yes, that is accurate."
"Then I must apologize.
He struggled to find the words.
I fail to see why you need her, specifically if this is just a recovery mission."
He could feel the words getting harder to say with every syllable.
"Sir."
"Stop that,"
Victoria told him before returning to the conversation.
"He has a point. What aren't you telling us?"
There was that toothy grin again. "See, this is why I knew you were a good fit. You're observant." He took a hand out from behind him to raise his goggles off of his eyes. Compared to the rest of him, his face was almost unsettlingly plain. "The thing they have taken from me is going to require some convincing.
You keep doing that.
She sounded like she was getting tired of the discussion.
If you're going to be vague about it, we're walking. Just tell us where we need to go and what we need to do.
Rubyn was mortified, but in spite of the clear disrespect, the doctor obliged. He explained that he was part of a development team in the field of artificial intelligence and robotics, with their main focus on embodied intelligences that could perform tasks deemed unsafe or unsavory for humans. They were on the verge of a breakthrough, with a prototype unit showing great promise, when they suddenly lost communication with it planetside on what was supposed to be a test mission.
What was the mission, if I may ask?
Rubyn cut in. We wanted to see if it could learn to swim. He wasn't sure it was a joke. After a few days of searching, they were sure it had been lost, until a communication came through from an unknown sender. They were demanding payment not in ore, but in gold, and it would have been enough to destabilize the colony's reserve. Victoria found that strange.
What would they want with gold?
Who knows? They're thieves, he growled in exasperation. I wouldn't be able to pay them off even if I wanted to, the conniving little... Victoria nodded as she considered the information.
You're sure you don't want us to kill them?
That got a laugh out of the man. Yes, I'm sure. He cleared his throat. I just want her back. Did he hear that correctly? Rubyn ran over the last few seconds in his mind. Her? As for the convincing, the doctor continued, this prototype is complex. It is still developing, even now, without our intervention. Not only will you need to recover it from the bandits, but you will likely need to convince it to return with you.
Convince?
It was as though he were referring to a moody teenager. Was this thing sentient? Was that even possible? He looked to Victoria for assurance that he was not alone in his thoughts. She seemed as confused as he was.
Is it armed?
It has access to weapons, yes. M seemed to dodge the question. For self-preservation.
And you think I can convince it?
That was another sticking point. Convincing was not a word he would use to describe her. Commandeering, sure. The doctor minced no words. You are Victoria. Just standing next to her, Rubyn could feel Victoria's body stiffen. It was as though that word activated something in her, an identifier far deeper than any mask she wore. Even he knew what it meant. She started to speak through clenched teeth.
You.
Do not misunderstand. M raised his hands in protest. That is why I need you. This intelligence is based on a pre-existing model, a consciousness mapping from one of our researchers. Whatever facial expression he had been wearing softened. She was Victoria also. Rubyn waited to see what she would do. He dared not speak. He had been on the receiving end of this before, exactly once. Her facial expression did not change, but she shifted her weight backwards as if to look down on the doctor.
Half up front, plus transport. I have a contact.
Of course.
Give me the coordinates in the transfer message. Encrypt it with a one-time code. The code should be Shakespeare.
M picked his pod up from the ground and reattached it to his forearm. He ran the encryption protocol with a few button presses. It is sent.
You look like an alien.
Victoria said bluntly. Rubyn had to interrupt.
You don't know a thing about fashion.
Chapter 4. Unsweet.
For what it's worth, I think it was out of line.
Victoria's expression didn't change, but she turned her head slightly away from him, shifting her focus to the rapidly passing architecture. The train was much more populated now, mostly people in long white coats, the early shift at Sciences. She wondered if they ever wore other clothes, or if it just made sense to keep it on all the time. She felt the impulse to yawn and quashed it.
I need coffee.
We could stop at my place for a minute. I should change anyway.
Rubyn was clearly trying to keep the mood light, but he stupidly kept coming back to the same thing.
You doing okay?
I need you to shut up about it.
It stopped him cold. She knew it was going to hurt, but it was effective. He didn't mention it again. Rubyn's apartment was always clean. It was small, just a one-bedroom with a kitchen, but clever design allowed him to stash most of his possessions behind a cabinet door. She sometimes got the impression he didn't actually own anything, and then she'd see inside his closet. She lingered in the kitchen to give him some privacy as he dutifully searched his collection for something suitable to go planetside. He made good coffee. It was strong, but not unpleasant, and she found that she preferred it to the stuff that came out of the vendor outside the guild. The flavor was more palatable, lacking the metallic taste of the cans, and she liked hers without any sweetener. As she drank, she could hear Rubyn swearing in the other room. She asked if he was all right.
Yeah, I just can't wear pants.
He groaned in pain.
It's gripping around my leg.
She put her coffee down on the kitchen island.
I'm coming in,
She said, and waited for the go-ahead. He reluctantly agreed, and she entered his bedroom to find him half-dressed, a pair of black trousers haphazardly pulled up around his left ankle. His face was red with embarrassment.
You idiot,
She said, and as she kneeled down in front of him, she queued up a first aid kit from her pod cache.
You need to wrap it first. Of course it's going to hurt.
They were both silent as she worked. He shuddered when she applied the alcohol-soaked cloth on the wound site, so she held his leg still with her other hand. After sanitizing, she checked for any physical obstructions, and finding none, she gently wrapped gauze around his calf, applying enough pressure to provide stability but not to cause too much pain. She moved with clinical familiarity, stopping when he expressed discomfort before gradually returning to pace, and before long the wound had been fully covered.
It's still going to hurt a bit, just be careful.
She recalled the kit to her cache and stood up.
Vic,
Rubyn said, clearly upset.
I'm really sorry.
She locked eyes with him, and he turned away, his face to the floor. She never quite knew how to act around people in their vulnerability, but she knew enough to not say something to make it worse. She took a deep breath, let it flow out of her, and then softened her voice, saying,
Just be careful, okay?
He nodded. She used the time he spent getting ready to take inventory, scrolling past the standard guild-issue equipment to her custom hard light rifle, one of the few weapons she only had one of, the other being a discontinued photon cannon, and ensuring the ammunition core was fully charged. On her person and covert hip holsters were two silenced handguns. She had taken them to a black market light forger who modified their photon cores to glow in a color outside the visible spectrum, making them essentially invisible from a distance. It was worth the cost, she thought, to know she would never be caught without a weapon, even if her pod was damaged, or if the guild blacklisted her. Rubyn came out of his room, dressed in a loose-fitting brown tunic and black pants. His hair was pulled back into a low ponytail. He looked sensible. Victoria finished her coffee, and the two of them left to meet her contact, a private teleporter operator whom she had done business with before, and she knew to be discreet. His workshop was a short train ride and a 5-minute walk away.
So we're just gonna go straight in there?
Rubyn asked, attempting to keep his voice under the collective din of conversations around them.
No surveillance, just guns blazing, grab the thing and get out.
You heard what he said. He wants it back.
The train pulled into her station, the airlock doors creating a pressure zone that was almost ushering them out.
He wants her back,
He specified, with a bit of a chuckle. Victoria didn't find it amusing.
People personify their possessions. It's not uncommon.
Stepping out onto the platform, she took note of the time on one of the digital billboards. It was getting to be early evening. No wonder she felt tired. Hoping the coffee would kick in soon, she added,
Every ship used to be a woman.
Rubyn smirked and put on an old man voice, saying,
And if you work hard and save your money, one day you'll own a woman of your very own.
It was a dumb joke, but it worked. Victoria smiled. Chapter 5. The Round. In the 15 or so years before the first construction payload had been launched for the massive planet-side facility known as Siren Base, colony divisions would lay claim to land areas they found strategically useful, often breaking ground before approval had been received. In the rush to establish a foothold on the planet, many terraforming protocols were ignored, and building projects either had to be retroactively approved, rolled back, or written off and abandoned. This was one of the latter projects. A sprawling, city-sized residential complex had been planned atop a mesa in one of the temperate zones. The proposal sang the praises of its stunning vistas, self-sufficiency, and high walkability score. It was to be the Development Division's shining accomplishment. It wasn't until they had bored tunnels under the majority of the southern end of the plateau that the laborers began to act strangely. People would complain about the noise of the machinery or the brightness of the work lights. Large slabs of polished stone, some the size of a freight-class transport and meant for foundational sewer infrastructure, began to go missing from the worksite, followed soon after by the workers themselves. The proposal was denied, and the mesa declared uninhabitable. All the equipment had to be left behind, as did many of the bodies, deemed unrecoverable by sciences. It was at the mouth of this tunnel system that Rubyn and Victoria now found themselves. The first thing he noticed was the abundance of plant life. The mouth of the tunnel was lined with a heavy blanket of moss, and tall, soft grasses flowed inwards as far as the sunlight could reach. Dandelion-like flowers were scattered throughout, competing only with the seemingly ubiquitous bright blue fungus caps for space. Ankle-height bushes dotted with bright pink berries formed a de facto fence around what had clearly once been the tunnel staging area, a wide funnel of tamed nature leading to the dark chasm that awaited them. The waning sunlight gave everything a majestic wash of gold, and Rubyn wondered if colors like this had existed on old Earth.
Let's go.
Her command snapped him out of the daydream. It was time to work. At first, the light from outside was enough to navigate, but as the tunnel split into two directions, the darkness grew more potent. Victoria's rifle cast a dim magenta hue along the walls, but as they kept more towards the center of the tunnel walkways, it was not enough to perceive their surroundings. Their steps grew more rigid and synchronized the further in they went. Rubyn did not dare stray too far from her for the same reason why neither of them had brought headlamps. They didn't know who might be waiting for them, and such a bright light in the darkness was an easy target. Even the rifle was a risk factor, but she clearly thought it necessary. The only sounds they could hear were their own. Their soft footsteps reverberated gently up the rough stone walls, and Rubyn felt himself unconsciously matching Victoria's measured breaths. Every 20 meters or so, she would abruptly stop, and while he was initially caught off guard, by the fourth time he settled into the touch-and-go rhythm. He knew he couldn't see anything, but he kept looking around as if he could develop night vision through willpower alone. The tunnels never narrowed, and without any other landmarks, he was finding it difficult to discern one section of darkness from another. She stopped, earlier than usual, he thought. He watched her closely, waiting for the signal to keep moving. It didn't come. She was raising her rifle scope to her eye level. Her voice was terse, nearly silent.
Light him up.
With a practiced urgency, Rubyn brought his pod up to his face and navigated through the touchscreen menus. Text, single, element, fire, flare. A surge of photonic energy manifested in the palm of his right hand, taking the shape of a dim red orb of light. With an effort, he tossed it in an overhead arc ahead of them, and the orb's brightness grew in intensity as it sailed through the air like a stone before coming to rest on the tunnel floor, illuminating the feet and legs of a human-like shape. The rifle discharged without hesitation, the beam finding its target in a fraction of a second, effortlessly penetrating the torso and exploding outward, scattering fragments of a long, decayed thoracic cage in a 2-meter radius. They were, thankfully, out of the range of the blast, but the acrid odor of burnt remains permeated the tunnel, and Rubyn fought the urge to vomit. Victoria showed no such reaction.
I thought I told you to set up gesture control.
She calmly lowered her weapon and approached what was left of the skeleton, propped up by a scaffolding pipe in the center of the path.
You can't keep menu diving. You need to be faster.
Whoever they were, this had not been the place they died. Scraps of rope kept the body upright, and its feet had been manipulated so that it appeared to be levitating off the ground. Tied to each bony hand was a human skull, and one arm was raised higher than the other. Below the gruesome scene was a scrap of wood upon which someone had written, "Justice will be served."
We're on the right track.
She pressed forward down the tunnel. Rubyn followed, fighting against his impulses to turn and run back out.
I'd get lost anyway,
he told himself, and turned that energy into scouring his pod's onboard documentation. He had meant to set it up, but it wasn't at the front of his mind, not until now. He had just reached the section on gesture control when he saw the light. She clearly saw it too, because she raised her rifle again, and her pace slowed to a steady crawl. With each agonizing step, the silver light grew brighter, until suddenly the walls of the tunnel came back into their vision, and they could see how far they had to go before the oppressive monotony came to an end. The perpetual, unchanging burrow began to give way to an enormous chamber, and they saw the originator of their pathway. A huge boring machine, the house-sized front-mounted drill rusted from disuse, a detail they could only notice in the shimmering silver light that emanated from a large sconce hanging from the ceiling. The walls of the chamber were not hewn in the rock, but polished stone stacked into tall architectural formations, pillars supporting nothing, archways leading to nowhere. The center of the room was home to a stone dais, 20 feet in diameter, surrounded by semicircular stone pews not unlike a theater in the round. Like the drill, the stage and its seating had been a victim of the ambient moisture, huge cracks texturing their otherwise smooth gray exterior. Rubyn's eyes had to adjust to the light, but the scale of the room before him instilled a similar awe to what he felt at the tunnel entrance. But rather than nature, his admiration grew for the people who had once been there, had built this place. He had read about the temples of old Earth, the gathering places of its ancient people, and he felt as if he was seeing something now his ancestors might have seen thousands of years ago. In spite of the millennia between them and the millions of light years, maybe this place gave them something in common.
What do you think this was?
He asked, his voice full of wonder.
It doesn't matter. Look.
She pointed to one of the stone archways. Beneath its keystone, propped upright in a similar manner to the corpse, was a human figure, seemingly untouched by decay. The silver light glowed eerily on it as though it were dressed in full new steel armor.
Vic,
Rubyn observed.
That person's been down here a long time.
The armor. Right.
She cautiously crossed the atrium, taking some time to feel the texture of the stones. It seemed to give no resistance to her touch, her fingers gliding frictionlessly across the surface of the dais, only stopping when they met a cavernous split in the rock that revealed its inner flesh, similarly smoothed by the efforts of moisture and temperature. She caught a stray beam of silvery light, and Rubyn was entranced by her movements. She walked without effort, without a hint of strain, and in the soft ashen luminance she appeared to him as Selene, goddess of a moon he would never see, radiant in her grace and facility. He couldn't help but follow in her wake, even laying his fingers on the stone as she had, retracing her touch and shivering at the sensation of its impossibly smooth surface. Victoria reached the figure first. She looked over it for a few seconds before calling back to him.
Light him up.
He tripped over a stray rock while fumbling with his pod.
Never mind, I'll do it.
She berated. She placed her rifle down on the ground, and Rubyn watched as she simultaneously closed her left hand into a fist while holding her pinky out with her right. With a flicking motion, she clenched her right hand, and her left hand opened to reveal a dim red orb. In a single movement, she placed it on the ground and retrieved her rifle. She looked back at him, her face communicating everything he knew she wanted to say.
I get it,
he responded out loud and joined her in front of the figure. It was a young woman, maybe his age, her face pallid and bloodless, her closed eyelids similarly without color. As the flare grew brighter, its color changed from red to white, and her shoulder-length hair appeared to shift from a deep black to a soft midnight blue. It matched her armor, a form-fitted, heavy reinforced plate, which was in fine condition despite the circumstances. He felt some pity that it didn't protect her well enough. Her pod, still attached to her forearm, showed no sign of life either, but it was a model he had never seen. It wasn't civilian or guild issue. It looked custom.
What a shame.
Rubyn bowed his head.
I wonder how she died.
Rubyn.
Victoria spoke as though he had said something ridiculous.
It's not dead.
It?
He thought that was rude. Then he looked again. The pale skin, the armor, the uncanny likeness of a human face. Even the eyes. Not closed, but dormant. It wasn't human. It was something else. And then a shot rang out, and his vision went white, and none of it mattered anymore. This has been an audio presentation of Finders Keepers, part of an original short story compilation written and narrated by Scott McGowan, and starring Sean Hebert as Rubyn and Nancy MacDonald-Kerr as Victoria. If you enjoyed the presentation, I would encourage you to please share it with someone who might like it as well. Make sure you subscribe to the show in the podcast player of your choice so that you get notified of future episodes. Bye now.